I was recently, a couple of weeks ago, I came back from Israel, where I was spending time in the Central Zionist Archives, also looking for material about something else, and I came across a letter from Chaim Weizmann. This is in the context of the Paris Peace Conference, of course, and around the aspirations for Palestine, and of course this knotty question of what a Jewish national home actually would be. Something that was also really interesting about this period is that, of course, there's lots of, oh, sorry, I've just realized I flicked my slide on. Please, could you advance my slides? Sorry. So the emboldening here and the italics are mine in this letter. But Weizmann particularly highlights here that one of the problems in terms of advancing the Zionist organization's goals in Palestine is what he defines as a certain prejudice of some of the British officials against the Jew. And these prejudice would be what today, overwhelmingly, he's talking about anti-Semitism, although he doesn't couch it in those terms. And I'm going to explore some of these tropes that come up in just a moment. As I said, what's interesting is that we see within the British official sources that there is a level of concern, firstly about the status of Palestine and the non-Jewish inhabitants, but crucially about what it might mean for the Jews if unfettered immigration is allowed, if the promises made in Balfour are fully enacted in the way that the Zionist organization want. And these are heavily echoed by the concerns of both local and national Jewish communities who are writing to the Zionist organization at this time. There isn't one Zionist voice at all. And also kind of their concerns particularly are around questions of accusations of dual loyalty for those who don't wish to go to Palestine. Are they going to, is it going to be Dreyfus all over again, or something like that? So those concerns are strong. There's also very much a worry about the disenfranchisement, or possibly even the expulsion of Jews from Europe and elsewhere if this should be enacted. So I found it was quite interesting that what I thought I could see in the sources is something that Weizmann is highlighting as early as 1919.
What we've witnessed over the last 2 years, the weaponization of the COVID pandemic, particularly in the social media, where Jews, the Jewish people, Israel, held out to be those who manufacture the COVID pandemic, cause it spread, profit from it, etc. The weaponization on the social media, the weaponization of human rights, particularly in the campus culture, the pandemic of systemic racism, but which has resulted in everybody seeking to combat all the various elements of pandemic racism, but anti-Semitism being marginalized. A global political pandemic, which has a pandemic of impunity that underpins anti-Semitism itself. The Russia-Ukraine war, the weaponization here, where in fact the Palestinians are the Ukrainians, Israel are the Russians. And finally, as I mentioned, the Hamas and Palestinian Authority combined incitement and a state-orchestrated incitement with regard to anti-Semitism, which itself is being sanitized and not addressed or redressed in many of the annual reports themselves. And I conclude, therefore, to say that we have not only a responsibility to unmask this old, new anti-Semitism, but to make it clear that it is not just prejudicial to Israel, the Jewish people, because people say, maybe Israel deserves it. The point is that this old, new anti-Semitism, that which the Elder Zion described so brilliantly, is not only prejudicial to Israel and the Jewish people, it's prejudicial to our common humanity. It's toxic to democracies. It's the canary in the mine shaft of global evil. And as we've said too often and too well, but regrettably not acted upon it, that while it begins with Jews, it doesn't end with Jews. What's at stake is our common humanity. Thank you.
New York City has the largest population, metropolitan. It approximates, if you count Tel Aviv with the metropolitan area, 1.1 million Jews in New York City is a lot of Jews in one place, anywhere in the world. And yet, that is also the locality that contributes 15 to 25% on any given year to the FBI national total. So New York City is the epicenter of anti-Jewish hate crimes. Now, this one chart, which is a simple look at 2017 to 2021 at the NYPD data, no binomial regression analyses, one chart addresses the 5 hypotheses. Why? If you'll see, we have the number of attacks. And the percentage are the percentage of total police precincts where attacks were recorded. So you can see clearly that the average is somewhere around here. You're talking about under 50, pardon if we can, under 50 attacks per group was the average until 2020 when things went haywire for the anti-Asian attacks and anti-LGBTQ. But until then, only Jews, 70% of police precincts. In 2019, peak year, 242 incidents in 77% of precincts. Now, if you look at the next slide, which is a visualization. So to help really understand, one more click, and you'll see that a comparison with anti-Jewish attacks, the geographical distribution in comparison with the next most targeted group for any given year. You could see the difference. Now, if this isn't alarming, that not only we're just looking at the total number of incidents and we know that Jews represent 60%, yada, yada. No. Jews are being attacked everywhere, and none of these theories can account for that. And frankly, nobody has even gone after this to look and say, hey, what does account for this? We do need to account for this because Jews don't live everywhere. They don't work everywhere. They pass through, they take a train, and that is just enough of a reason to get a Jew. In fact, you could be in the center of Crown Heights, of Borough Park, of Williamsburg, and that's where you're most likely to get attacked.